What's going on? What's going on? Let's see what we got going on in the markets. So, trading view updated, it looks like. Kind of whack if you ask me. Had to figure out where to go for a second. Okay, let's let this load. And let's see what we got. So, Mondays, seems like the internet's going slow today, but Monday nights, I like to just look at what the market has done. I usually don't trade on Sundays, and I usually don't trade too much on Mondays either. And I always clear my charts every week. So let's look at the dollar first. We're going to go weekly, daily, and then go on to the hourly charts to see if there's any setups of any kind. So first, let's start on the weekly, see what last week did, and kind of any important areas that we'll see on a higher time frame, and then we'll work our way down. So on this weekly time frame, we have this zone right here, pretty obvious zone, right? And I'm gonna make this a supply area because clearly you see that sellers came in here, sellers came in here. We did reject here last week, it looks like, and we could be falling. Now we are above this 50 EMA, so it's kind of in a interesting spot. Let's go to the daily. Now, yesterday we pretty much made a engulfing candle to the downside. And if you're any type of a patterns person, you've probably noticed this rising wedge that's been forming for a while. And we're starting to possibly break through that. So, overall, I am in favor of the dollar starting to roll to the downside. Now, sometimes with these falling wedges, what can happen is they can keep testing up at the top of the wedge, and then they'll fall. So that's definitely a possibility. But with yesterday's candle, I'm pretty much liking the downside overall for the dollar. So maybe a little pop up and then a drop down. Let's go look onto maybe the 1 hour time frame. And you can see pretty much Friday, or maybe it could have been Thursday. Either way, there was a move down, and then we had some consolidation, and now we're starting to move down again. I'm looking for this to end up going to the downside, right? At least to this price here. So there's a lot of room to the downside for the dollar for me. So I'm going to be playing that downside tomorrow. So if we can get maybe a move up into this area where we have some definite sellers come in, then I'm going to be looking for this to roll over to the downside. You can draw this little trend line if you want to. Use that as confluence. Not much of a trend line trader myself. I just like patterns more than trend lines. But this could definitely come up here, respect this little trend that it's making, and move to the downside. So I'll be definitely watching for a move down on the dollar. I'm going to start using these arrows a little bit. They're just a little cleaner. And then a move down is what I'll be looking for on the dollar. Now the euro should be the opposite. We should be looking bullish on the euro. And last week I did want to see it come back into this. It didn't quite get there, so let me just delete everything I got and let's take a look at the weekly. So the weekly is pretty much the inverse of the DXY. Came into this demand area, and I'll mark this as demand, and showed some, not necessarily as much rejection, but it's slowing down. You can see the candles are getting a little smaller. Now, ultimately, I want to see this come up into this area before it breaks down lower, if it's going to break down lower. Like, I don't want this to just start to fall without a clean retest of this area that hasn't been retested. So I'm still wanting this to come up a little bit. You see the M on the weekly. It could just keep dropping, but I'm looking for this to come up a little bit and then start to fall down on like a longer term basis. Now on the daily, you can see again that there's another pattern. Now this is the falling wedge. And with yesterday's candlestick pattern, it looks like we might be ready to leave this and head up to the upside, right? So this is the area that I will be looking for this to possibly turn at, up here. So let me mark this as, it's not really supply. I guess it is supply because there was a big drop off, but that's the area that I'll be looking for this to move up to. Maybe not all in 1 week, but eventually once it gets into this area, then I'll be looking longer term for a move down, right? But as of right now, we're holding this demand. So I'm going to drop down to the 1 hour and see if there's any type of setup. And it's not necessarily the best looking setup in my opinion, just because I like to see more of an impulsive move out of a demand zone. This is more of just very nice higher highs and higher lows, and some people, they would rather to see it like that than just more of I like to see more of just a big move out and then just a nice retracement and then another move out. So for me, I'm going to be looking for a possibility to get into a buy on this, but I might just wait on a better impulsive move. If you go to the 15-minute, you can see how there's a little bit more impulse right here. It's kind of flagging out. So in my opinion, we probably will see higher highs tomorrow. It might pull back a little bit into this 200 EMA on the lower time frames and then move up. But I don't really want to focus on the lower time frames today. I just want to kind of focus on an overall bias for the week. If it starts to move nicely throughout the week, then I'll look for another type of position. This is kind of the same or the inverse trend line of the dollar, right? If it comes into this, it's kind of a perfect little X marks the spot, move to the upside type scenario. So I'll be watching for the euro to move up throughout the week. If it has a very sharp move to the downside, what possibly could happen is this liquidity down here. These equal lows down here could be getting hunted. So you just gotta watch for that. Overall, I think this has the opportunity to start heading to the upside. Okay, this was a setup that I gave last week. It was either or type scenario. Looks like the downside played out a little bit. Let me delete everything now and look at this weekly. Okay, so the weekly, it did wick off this 200 EMA, which is the green EMA that I have. Doesn't mean it's just going to reverse, but it's definitely in an area where price has respected in the past on a higher time frame. I'm just going to make it blue. It's not really a demand zone here. It's really more down here's the demand, but what I'll do is I'll just delete the word demand. I'll just keep it right here because it is a significant price level. It has respected this area in the past before. So I'm just going to keep it here for now. On a lower time frame, you can definitely see it a little bit cleaner. So for now, since we haven't broke through this, I'm not going to look for any sells on AU. I'm not looking for sells on AU yet. If I even look for them this week. Okay, the 4 hour. 4 hours coming into this minor zone here that hasn't broken yet. So here's a little minor zone that, you know, if it doesn't break here, then we will see lower prices. But once it breaks here, then I'm looking for price to head up into this. You can see this higher volume area up in here. So I'll be. It's not really in a spot for me to trade. Not really. And this impulse is kind of nice right here. So if I look to trade AU, it's going to be somewhere down in this area. It's going to be somewhere right here. And in fact, I want to bring out this tool and see where this volume is from here to here. Let me back this up a little bit. Okay, it's mostly up there. Let me redraw that from here to here. Okay, yeah, a good amount's up there, but you can see that there is a good amount of volume right here, right? So obviously you can see where the candle got bigger. That's where the most volume probably sits at. So if you're going to trade AU, either trade the break and retest to the upside or wait for it to come down a little bit and then look for it to break out. It's a little bit not in my trading style yet, in my opinion. I think I've found better setups, looking better setups than this, but I'm gonna just keep looking at the market, trying to find a better setup for tomorrow. Okay, let's see what we got on GU. Looks like the GBPs could be moving back up with this type of weekly candle. I'm definitely expecting this to continue up. It might come down and test one more time, but this looks like it's ready to just continue up. It hit the weekly 50 EMA after an uptrend. It just looks like it's going to continue to me. The daily is showing some momentum starting to come up on the MACD. And let's see here. Daily engulfing as well. So all sides are leaning to the upside for me on GU. Excuse me. The position that I would look for would be similar to AU, right? I want the market to come down a little bit and then move to the upside. So coming into this area and then moving up again, something like that. Just to get a better pricing. It could just break these highs and continue up, but I would like to see it come down a little bit before anything happens. Let's see here. Yeah, good amount of volume still in this area right here. So that would be nice. Let me see if I bring it from here to here, because this is really ultimately what I would really want to see. I would really want to see it come down into these levels down here, but I don't think that's gonna happen, to be honest. That would leave a weekly wick though that I said that could happen. So I'm not loving the way these markets look so far. I want to see some type of a more, not obvious, but just a cleaner looking setup. Another thing I could see here starting to possibly form is this inverted head and shoulders. So if it does make that move up before I'm ready for it, it might, hit this 200, hit this level up here that we've definitely respected, and then move back down a little bit, back into some level down here that we've respected. So I'll be watching for that on a longer term play, but more short term, I think it has one more little move down, and then a move to the upside. But this level definitely has held, so I wouldn't expect it to just bust right through that yet. Not yet. I think it's going to get there. UChef was a nice little play last week. There's 2 setups for it. Did one of them, not this one. Let's look at this on the weekly. So it should look similar to the dollar in respects of the weekly candle. And, you know, this, to me, I still want this to come down into these levels right here that it broke and never really came back and retested. I've been saying that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the 7th week. So I've been waiting for this to come down into this level. So I'm going to continue that bias. And with the candlestick pattern that I presented yesterday, I think there's a good chance that it could end up making it down here. There is this price right here that is held though. So we're coming into that right now. Definitely coming into that. And for a little bit, I was thinking that this candle here this black candle here was a fake out candle, and then we had this move to the upside. And I was thinking if price came back into this candle, we should see a move to the upside. And now price is back into this candle pretty much. And I'm kind of not for it, right? On a higher time frame, it looks like it's just going to continue to the downside. So it's something I'm aware of, that candle could be like a manipulation down, move up, and when we come back into it, we could be seeing a higher high out of this. But ultimately, I'm still more bearish on it. You can see there's not a lot of volume at all to the right in terms of orders. You can see how price just moved very swiftly through this price. So if price does break this, it's going down here, most definitely. It's coming all the way down here. Let me add a little bit more price to see if we can get some more data right here. Yeah. So even when I add more price into the picture, this area in between these 2 yellow zones is still low. Even when I add almost a full year's worth of data, it's still very low. So one or two things, that means one or two things are going to happen. It means price is going to hold here. It means price is either going to hold at this level, and I put magnet on. I meant to put the, there we go. So it's either going to hold at this level and not go down here because there are not many orders, or when it breaks this area, it's going to most likely move fast down into this area. So it's just, however, if there's, major rejection here, then, it might be some idea to look for the upside. But to me, this looks like a pretty decent bearish flag. It's not the prettiest one I've ever seen, but we do have the impulse here. And then a correction. And now I'm looking for this to move to the downside, very similar to how it did here. So it would almost bring it down into that level. I would have to wait for price to get up a little higher before I look to sell it though. So into this level right here, this last little bullish and bearish move right there, that'd be the level I would look to sell at. So I'll be waiting for UChef to come up into this, and then most likely look to sell. But if it does get down into this candle, and I'm going to mark this off on the 1 hour. So it got very, very close to it. If it gets into this candle and shows some rejection, which damn near already is in that, showing a little bit rejection. It could be a scenario to look to buy up, at least into this. So U-Chef looks okay so far to me. Will be one of the ones I focus on the most tomorrow, probably, with a couple opportunities. Either buying off of this level, could even move it down into this, buying off of this level, or selling off of this level. So I'll be watching U-Chef tomorrow. That's what I do on Mondays. I really just try to, pretty much every night, I come on here and I look at all these pairs that I personally like to trade, and then figure out which pair has maybe a higher probability of trading for the day. All right, UJ. Is the yen gonna drop? That's my question. So on a weekly, it's not really the best market to trade right now, to be honest. UJ is kind of ugly right now on like an overall bigger picture, in my opinion. It had a big rally up. That was a nice move that it hadn't done in years, since 2016. So it started to rally again, but lately it's just been pretty choppy. I left a wick to the downside last week, so that's not really good for the bears. But structurally, if that's a word, you can see it was kind of making these higher highs on this chop and higher lows, and then it broke structure here and hasn't really been able to get back above that. So the structure does look on a daily like it's starting to roll to the downside, definitely. That weekly candle doesn't look good at all. So what I would say is if it breaks these highs, basically last week's high, at that point we should look for buys. Until then, we should continue to sell the trend. You can see the trend a little bit better on the 4-hour. This was the break of the structure, complete break, lower high, lower low. It came back up and made these equal highs, and it could very well just fall back down to these and make lower lows. You can see on the MACD there was a little bit of divergence here on these higher high in price, minor higher high, and then we had lower highs on the MACD. Now it looks like it started to roll over to the downside. I don't see a trade opportunity on it. The trade would have been, this impulse down, kind of correction, and then look for another impulse to the downside. If it can break this minor zone here, I think it'll roll down all the way into this area over here. And it could be forming some type of an ugly inverted head and shoulders, but I don't really want to play that game, trying to guess a pattern. I like it when a pattern looks a lot better. To me, this looks like more of a regular head and shoulders here, but you can kind of see you got the left, the head, and if it comes down into here, I'll just extend this out. If it comes down into this zone, that could be a possible inverted head and shoulders, but wait for a price to get there. So we got a couple zones here on UJ that I think price is going to end up slipping through here and then making its way down into here ultimately. So watching for UJ to drop, confirms with U-Chef dropping, confirms with the dollar dropping. It's all about if the yen's going to gain strength or not. So let's see here. EG. Now, I know last week I was really excited that EG started to break out of this, before I erase it, of this wedge pattern. And with the way it closed on the weekly, I'm not sure that that's going to happen. So let me just erase this and let's go to the weekly. And you can see on the weekly, it closed with that wick. major wick, huge wick on the weekly. In the past couple weeks, it's done that. So came pretty much into this area, closed with this wick. Now on the daily, I took a buy on this, so I'm still wanting it to go up, but it doesn't look likely, right? It came back into this range. It's most likely going to end up coming down a little bit more, and then it'll probably make the move that I wanted to make, to be honest. And that happens sometimes. But you can just see from this fib here, from this low to this high, right? We're in an interesting area. And then whenever I go into the lower time frames, I can bring this fib from here to here, and we're in what they call a fib cluster or fib zone, where price is hitting two different fibs on two different time frames. So it is still in an area that I would like to see it move up from, but at this point, if you're not already in the trade, I would advise to stay out, to be honest, because it looks like GU could continue up. That means EG could continue down. And ultimately what could have happened here is this move here took out the highs and then dropped pretty quick. So, price could come right back into this area and fall again, honestly. So EG is kind of hard to read lately. It's been very choppy. It has the divergence to move up right now. There is this lower low in price that's created, and then higher low in the MACD. So I personally still think it has a chance to come up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to extend like I wanted it to. It just, the weekly candle looks like it has other plans. So not the highest probability buy at this point anymore, especially, even the daily doesn't look great for a high probability buy, but it's still, like I said, in an area where the Fibonacci levels are all lining up, but price action is not. So if you're not buying this, I would definitely wait for a break of a high on a daily candle, something like that, to go down to the 1 hour, wait for this zone basically to bust, and then look for buys, because this thing kind of bearish looking, which means GJ is looking bullish most of the time. EG and GJ kind of be rolling together. So on the weekly, got this major wick on the weekly on GJ, and I'm going to extend this out, see where we get to, and just a clean level, right? So I'm not really thinking this is going to continue down much further. If it does go down at this point, it's probably ready to move to the upside. We got some bullish volume, definitely a bullish candlestick pattern here. Now the structure is still bearish, so if it's going to make lower lows, it's gonna stop literally right here to drop, right? This is like the high of the week type scenario if it's gonna drop. You can see that there's this little trend going on here. We're right at that trend line. We're right at the 50 EMA. On a weekly time frame, it doesn't look good to sell. On a daily time frame, it looks pretty good for a sell, to be honest. Let's see this 4 hour. 4 hour has a little bit of divergence. This is going to be one of those trades. I'm personally in this as well. So this is one of them that it's either going to run straight through my stop loss, or it'll probably fall into somewhere like this and I'll take majority of the profits when it comes into this area, right? Because we've seen some rejection here, a little bit right here. If it comes into this, could make that inverted head and shoulders. I don't want to make a winning trade turn into a loser, especially when the weekly kind of looks the way it does. So, you know, lower time frames does have the divergence there, but the higher time frames like the weekly really, and you know, even the daily, the momentum is starting to pick up. You can see here, the momentum is starting to pick up, turn blue, and it, you know, it's holding under this 50 EMA. So I would really say if it breaks this 50 EMA and starts to break this structure here, then we can really look for buys on GJ. But right now, it's kind of in the middle where I'm personally selling it, but that was from literally Friday. So I'm in some heavy drawdown right now. Some heavy drawdown. All right, let's go to GA. And GA is, I believe, in an interesting area as well. Let's bring this out. And just this price here, you can see it's respected as resistance, and then it was respected as support. We're back into it now, right? So I definitely don't want to buy right here, even though it's been bullish. I personally don't want to buy into this until it breaks. I would rather look to sell off of this just because it's an area that has respected in the past. So, and there is divergence on the daily time frame. So what I'll be looking for is some type of break of structure on maybe the 1 hour time frame. We have not got that in a long time, like for a minute. So I would really need to see, you know, the 50 EMA break. Even the 200 EMA at this point would need to break down the structure. Yes, the first area of structure is right here with this 50 EMA kind of holding as respect in this price action. But this 200 EMA really needs to break because we're in such an area where if this holds, we should see a bigger fall. I'm kind of waiting for that bigger fall to confirm, right? Right now, it looks like is a possibility for a good sell, but I don't really like to trade at this time, personally. I really just wait till New York session, and if I don't find a setup during New York session, I just go wait for the next day. So I'll be waiting to see if I wake up during New York and I see something like this, like a big impulse down. Then I'll be inclined to look for something like this to take it to this 200 EMA on maybe the 4 hour. Similar to what it did here, kind of broke down, retested, and then came back. I want to see something similar to that, right? What we're getting right now is low volume on a push up, which is most kind of showing a fake move. So I'm going to go to the 1 hour. Yeah, we're getting lower volume on moves higher. So that is showing kind of a stop hunt. Maybe wait for these to get broken and then see if there's low volume on that because that'll show stop hunt. We already got the divergence. Volume is diverging. So I'm seeing possible move down. Let's see what AU or EA looks like. It should look similar if they're going to fall. Not too similar. So pound and the Australian dollar, they're doing their own thing right now. That's what I'm seeing. Okay, so let's just delete everything and see what we got. So we got a good rejection candle last week off of EA, which lines up with me thinking that the Australian dollar could get strong, sending AU up, GA down, and EA down. So it came into this level, showed this rejection. It's a clean level, showed some rejection on a weekly basis. So I'm in favor of this to drop. Just not sure when or how far it's going to go. Because you can see on the daily it does have some structure to it. So on a daily time frame, it hasn't broken any type of structure. It's still bullish. It would need to break here for the daily to flip. So anything that we're playing to the downside would be based off of a 4 hour. And you know, the 4 hour has put in a lower high here. So that's a good sign. That's like the first sign. It would need to make this lower low to really show the structure starting to change on the 4 hour. Let me see this 1 hour time frame, and I'm not very confident in anything on this yet. In fact, there's two things I see. You know, this is the obvious bullish push, and it came into the 61.8 and started to move off. And then this is the obvious bearish push down, and it came into the 70 or almost the 71, and then could be starting to make a move down. So it's up in the air for me. I'm still looking for the bears. I'm going to mark this level off up here. If it gets another retest up here, I'm looking to short. Right, I'm looking to short up here, knowing that I damn well could be wrong and it could just continue up based off of that higher time frame. Okay, gold. I'm going to keep this right here for gold just because it has not moved at all. Well, it hasn't moved much yet. It still has this demand area here. So let me look on the weekly. Let me just hide this for now and see what it's looking like on the weekly. So yeah, weekly, not a whole lot to read off of that. Daily, you know, daily is looking like it could want to fall a little bit, right? And here's this area. I have this last little move fibbed out. It looks like it could come and hit the 61.8 and then move up. You know, there's a lot of people probably buying gold now with their stop losses close to the 61.8. So I'm personally going to wait to see some type of a dip down and then a quick move up. At that point, I'll be looking for pullbacks on gold to take it to the upside. So I'm waiting for that move on gold. I don't love trading gold at all. It's really volatile. Unless you have like a gold strategy, it's not really, I would say it doesn't move like other forex pairs, but in reality it does. It's just a lot more volatile. So I'm gonna wait on this buying opportunity right here. I know it's you know, if you like to play these type of moves, it's definitely setting up for a buy right now, and it could very well continue up to the upside. But I'm seeing a lot of retail traders probably buying here, looking at an easy opportunity, and that's when they get wrecked real quick. So price I'm looking for gold is 1782, and then once it hits that, then I'll be looking for a move to the upside. Now, what I need to do first is I need to see where the volume is sitting. Yeah, you see the good amount of volume is even a little bit lower than that. So it could, you know, there's not a lot here. So if it does break here, it's probably going to get here pretty fast. So I think it would be a better idea to put a sell stop down here. I'm not a sell stop kind of guy, but that's what it just looks better to me right here. So I'll be waiting on gold to come down into these fibs and then move to the upside. Okay, the S&Ps, I don't really trade them that much anymore, to be honest. They don't really do anything but just go up. So if you are looking for trade opportunities on the NASDAQ, on the Dow or the S&P, just wait for buying opportunities. It's almost that easy when it comes to these. Trying to sell them and time a sell, it just doesn't work. It rarely works, to be honest. So um, even when structure breaks, like you can see this huge break of structure, that's like the best time to buy. When these things tank, it's the best time to buy them. So, you know, any buying opportunity that you see fit, look for that. Even even though there's a bunch of divergence right here, you know, and the market should start to roll over to the downside, it's probably not gonna, because these things just go up. They really freaking do. They just go up. So last week it was bullish all across the board. So yeah, I'm not gonna try to sell at the all-time highs. Definitely not. Just I'm gonna wait for buying opportunities only. Bitcoin. Let's look at Bitcoin because it had a great week, and it was really a great end of the week. So bullish engulfing, held above the 50 EMA. Let's look at the range that it's been forming for quite some time. Right, so it's been struggling to break 40, pretty much 4,500, and it has not wanted to break below like 29 really. So here's the range that it's in, and it's right back up at the top of the range. Well, it did hit the top of the range with a sign of strength. So for me, I'm thinking that this could be that last little rally that we needed to see before price ends up making a move to the upside. So you can see, I'm going to just draw it from here to here. Clear break of this little trend, and the way it moved through it. You know, some people put a line in the middle of the range, and the way it moved through the middle of the range to me was showing just so much strength. And so I'll be looking for Bitcoin to move to the upside, definitely. Now it's got some volume coming into the downside, and that's natural after a move up. But let's look at the range here. You can see a lot of volume coming in at 32. A lot.